Well, every year at the World Economic Forum in Davos, we bring you diverse voices. We bring you people from around the world who have a real say in terms of where it's all going. It's been a year of real crisis around the world, whether it's conflict, concerns over sustainable development, concerns over so many issues, not least of all the future of AI and climate. It is something that we need to ponder on very deeply. We are, of course, in Switzerland, and as you can see, we are on a ski slope. And you can see this gondola going down. But let me introduce my guests at this stage, Bob Mumgaard with me. Bob is co-founder and chief executive officer of Commonwealth Fusion, dealing with one of the most interesting aspects of clean energy. What is the future of nuclear energy? What is the future of fusion? He's going to be talking a little bit about that. We've got Abhishek Awadhya. Thanks, Abhishek, very much for being with us. He is a deep tech entrepreneur, and Akshay Saxena is winner of the Schwab Foundation's Social Entrepreneur of the Year 2024. And he's clearly not feeling very cold over here. So, but let me come to you first, Bob. What you're working on now, the future of nuclear plants in terms of fusion energy. I think the first question that comes to everybody's mind is basic. How safe is it?
So it's completely different than existing nuclear power. It's the opposite. So in fusion, you're combining light elements to make heavier ones the same way the sun works. And that means that there's no meltdown, there's no connection to weapons, and there's no long-lived nuclear waste. The issue right now is we still have to develop the technology and deploy it. And so we're building on the very first power plants right now. And
it's on schedule, more or less, right? You're about to deploy the first prototype, right?
Right now, we're about halfway through building the first prototype outside of Boston. Mm-hmm. Our company spun out of MIT, and we started about 3 years ago building this machine. And in about 2 years, we'll turn the machine on, and that'll be an important point in the world where we'll have, for the first time, industrial-scale fusion power being created by people.
That's unbelievable. We're going to talk about a little bit more about that, but let me come to you next, Abhishek. AI is, let's walk as we talk. AI is obviously one of the key enablers. It's also a source of great concern. Yeah. When it comes to the workplace and disruptions and AI, where do you stand?
Yeah. So I think the world is talking about AI and how it is going to disrupt every aspect of our lives. I strongly believe that AI will work in conjunction with humanity, with workforce, to elevate the productivity. A lot of our work is, while focused on automation at Simply AI, but we firmly believe that in the near term, all of these AI tools are going to elevate the productivity of workforce across functions and across roles. And it's very important for all the players to really make that argument very clear, very succinct to the people at large, so that the fear factor around AI is actually replaced with positivity and hope.
What about jobs disappearing?
Well, I mean, as the report of World Economic Forum itself states, that while there will be about 90-odd million jobs which will be substituted by 2030, but 170 million more would be created. So in my mind, it's like what happened in Industrial Revolution. Jobs will get substituted, the jobs which are repetitive, low value in nature, with high value jobs being moved up the value chain to people. Yeah. And to me, that is what is going to unlock productivity for humanity at large.
Yeah. Akshay, you look at AI from a different standpoint. You're an educator at a very basic level. What is the future of education and AI? Where do you see it going? A lot of people say, for example, in the next 5 to 10 years, the basis of education, the way we've learned it, will change. And that there is no creativity associated with AI if it's a machine that's doing all the learning and sharing information with you. How do you deal with this profound issue?
And I think there's a couple of things to be really careful about, right? And especially when you look at it in the context of a country like India, where we already have massive inequity that's growing. One is, like Abhishek said, that the nature of work will change, which means you'll have to almost work with an AI co-pilot alongside. What are our schools doing to equip kids to do that? And how many kids even have exposure to this? Because the majority of kids in India don't even have cell phones of their own or access to the internet in any meaningful way. And what does that mean for our colleges? Because India has amongst the largest engineering workforce that we produce, but also amongst the least employable engineering workforce. So how do we quickly remodel our engineering schools, technical schools, to actually make graduates AI ready? And if we don't move quickly on these fronts, this could be quite catastrophic for India's youth.
Yeah. Just shifting again back to nuclear power, cost would be a key concern when one talks about future nuclear reactors. Typically, how expensive would a sizable reactor cost?
So the goal with all all new sustainable energy is to produce energy in a way that we can enable growth, which means it has to be low cost.
Right.
And one of the great things about technologies like fusion is you're using all these other technologies that have come before. You're adding them up. And so you're getting the cost advantages that came from new ways to manufacture. You're getting cost advantages that come from simulation and the use of AI and fusion itself. And so we think that this could lead to a low-cost energy source. We need to still build this and have the receipts, and that's what we're working on now.
And there would be essentially no waste, like just a fraction of the waste that we get from nuclear plants now, which for thousands of years, cannot be touched, right?
Yes, in fusion, you don't have the long-lived nuclear waste, the generational, many generations, where you have to keep track of it. You still have some byproducts that you need to keep track of, but it's on the decade timescale. But really importantly, you don't have the pollution. You don't have the CO2. You don't have the particulates and the sort of dirty jobs that come with our existing energy system today.
If you look at let me ask you, in fact, Abhishek, if you look at AI now, there is a big danger of it being weaponized.
Yeah.
We've spoken about education, we've spoken about, for example, healthcare. There's the huge positives, but there's a huge danger as well. Yeah. Who protects us? Where are the rules? Who regulates?
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting and a very hard question to answer. While most countries are figuring out frameworks around AI, to me, self-governance is going to be the way forward. Because at the crux of it is the innovation being driven by companies which are highly distributed. So innovation is not happening in pockets, and therefore exercising control from any one authority is very, very hard. So every player which is playing a meaningful role in AI adoption, AI level solutioning, all of us need to be incredibly responsible. We have to be incredibly careful about respecting privacy, respecting safety, security, and having the responsibility of doing the right thing. Mitigating biases. Yeah.
And a final question to you. There are large learning models, LLMs, as they're known in the world of AI. That's a critical part of the evolution of AI. Where do you see India and its potential contribution to large learning models?
So it's very early days in the Indian context, and there's actually not very many efforts to build new large learning models at scale. We are now starting to see small learning models being built. For instance, there's a company called Sarvam and a bunch of others who are trying to build really small models that do very specific tasks. So for instance, if ChatGPT was to generate a response, can you translate that quickly into a local Indian language? And I don't think India, in my opinion, needs to necessarily be at the forefront of LLMs. The question is, can we be at the forefront of adoption and assimilation, which we have, in the digital age, with Aadhaar, UPI, and many other tools. So if we can actually use AI faster than most of the world, it gives us a huge advantage.
Well, diverse views, as I mentioned, and I'd like to thank all of you very much for speaking to us today. It's back to the studio.